Chapter 1. The golden light of dawn, if such a thing could be measured in heaven, spilled across Lucifer's abode, illuminating a space that shimmered with endless creativity and splendor. Perched on the edge of the crystal sea, his dwelling was as fluid and magnificent as its creator, shifting and evolving with each passing thought. Its walls, carved from radiant crystal, refracted the brilliance of heaven into prismatic hues, casting rippling rainbows that seemed to hum faint melodies of their own. The floor, polished to a mirror-like sheen, reflected the vibrancy of the skies above, which constantly shifted in colors no earthly artist could name. At the center of this haven stood a harp unlike any other. Its golden frame glowed with a soft internal light, and its strings, threads of pure luminescence rather than metal, hummed faintly, whispering melodies that had yet to be written. Nearby, an intricate lyre of Lucifer's own design rested on a stand, its crystalline panels vibrating with the very essence of the Creator's light. When played, it produced harmonies that seemed to resonate with the foundations of heaven itself, touching every angelic heart that heard it. A table sat against the far wall, cluttered with sheets of living parchment. These were no ordinary pages, but rippling, glowing surfaces that shifted with ideas and possibilities, reconfiguring themselves as Lucifer refined his vision. Today, the parchments held the fragments of a new symphony, a masterpiece he was crafting for the grand celebration to honor the sun. Every note, every phrase of music, carried a weight of devotion, an expression of a soul poured entirely into its work. Lucifer sat by the great window of his abode, the river of life glimmering below, its endless currents carrying the Creator's light to the farthest reaches of heaven. The fruit from the tree of life rested in his hand, its flavor of honey and citrus lingering on his tongue. Yet the sweetness failed to ground him as his thoughts drifted back to the throne room. He closed his eyes, and the memory unfurled as vividly as if he were there again. The gates of the throne room had loomed before him, vast and alive, shimmering with patterns of light that danced and shifted like breathing starlight. As he approached, they opened soundlessly, their grandeur humbling even the morning star. Stepping through, he had been enveloped by an expanse that defied comprehension, a space so boundless it felt as though all of creation resided within its walls. The floor beneath him was not mere gold, but something alive, flowing like molten glass and reflecting the brilliance of the room. Above, the great rainbow encircled the throne in colors so vivid they seemed to sing, each hue a note in a divine symphony. From the throne itself radiated a light so pure and warm that it seemed to reach into the depths of Lucifer's being, filling him with awe and a reverent joy. And there, at the center of it all, hovered the Creator, his presence overwhelming yet tender, a brilliance no eye could fully grasp. Beside him stood Michael, the Word incarnate, his serene expression imbued with an authority that carried the weight of eternity. Lucifer had knelt instinctively, his golden wings folding behind him, their tips brushing the radiant floor. "You summoned me, my lord," he had said, his voice steady, yet laced with a quiet wonder. The Father's voice had resonated through the vast chamber, deep and steady, like the foundation of all existence. "Rise, morning star. I have a purpose for you." Lucifer had obeyed, rising gracefully to meet the Creator's light. "Your will is my joy, my lord," he had replied, his gaze unwavering. The light around the throne had seemed to pulse warmly, a ripple of infinite love and intention. "A new creation is upon us," the Father had said, his words carrying the weight of eternity. "A world where my glory will be revealed in ways even heaven cannot yet comprehend. It shall be a place of freedom, beauty, and choice." Lucifer had felt a flicker of surprise, though he kept it hidden behind his flawless composure. "A new creation," he had echoed softly, his voice carrying the faintest note of curiosity. "It is through my Son that this work shall be accomplished," the Father had continued. His word will bring it into being. His authority is my authority. Though his face remained serene, Lucifer had felt an unspoken tension coil within him. The Creator's words were clear, yet they carried a finality that left no room for interpretation. He had bowed his head slightly, his voice unwavering. "How may I serve?" The Father's light had intensified, filling the chamber with a brilliance that seemed to embrace every corner of existence. "You will oversee a celebration," he had said, "a gathering of all heaven, to honor my Son and the work he will do. It must reflect my glory." Lucifer had nodded, his voice calm, his composure practiced. "As you command, my Lord." Even now, as he sat in his abode, the memory lingered, pressing against the edges of his thoughts. He could still feel the weight of the Father's words, the significance of the task entrusted to him. It was an honor beyond comprehension, a reflection of the trust the Creator had placed in him. And yet, as his gaze drifted to the river of life and the horizon beyond, Lucifer felt a faint flicker deep within, a flicker that refused to fade. Why his authority? The question whispered unbidden, slipping through the cracks of his resolve. He shook his head, rising from his seat as though movement could banish the thought. His wings rustled softly, catching the refracted rainbows of the crystal sea as he reached for his work, determined to silence the whisper with purpose. But as he prepared for the day ahead, the memory of the throne room remained, its brilliance etched into his mind. And with it lingered a shadow, faint yet persistent, as though the very perfection of heaven had stirred something he could not yet name. The air in the heavenly city hummed with energy, alive and vibrant as though heaven itself was breathing. Light and sound danced together, weaving an intricate symphony that pulsed through the endless expanse. Beneath Lucifer's feet, the golden streets of the celestial city rippled like liquid fire, reflecting the ever-changing hues of the sky above. Everything moved with purpose. Every shimmer of light, every flutter of wings, was an extension of the Creator's perfect will. Far above, the spires of the Sapphire Court stretched toward infinity, their peaks crowned with living fire that twisted and danced in the endless skies. The air buzzed softly with the wings of angels as they glided through the courts, their voices rising in song. A melody so intricate, it seemed woven into the fabric of heaven itself. Each note, each movement, carried purpose and praise. Even the gentle rustle of the gardens, fragrant with blossoms that never faded, seemed to echo with adoration. The angels moved like a single unified breath, each fulfilling their role with joy. To them, work was worship, and worship was life. Some nurtured distant galaxies, tending to their birth with careful precision. Others walked the golden streets, their voices lifting in songs that told the story of eternity. And still others recorded the ongoing beauty of creation, their quills etching the unfolding wonders of the Creator's will into the great archives of heaven. Elsewhere, high in the Sapphire Court, laughter rang out as Gabriel and Selaphiel worked side by side in their workshop. Suspended above the golden streets, their space was a sanctuary of celestial creation, filled with glowing orbs of starlight that floated like embers awaiting their final form. Constellations in progress hovered around them, each one a masterpiece of precision and imagination. Gabriel stood with a quill of pure starlight in his hand, his golden eyes narrowed in concentration as he carefully etched the finishing details into a star cluster. Each movement of his hand was deliberate, every mark exact. "If you'd stop rearranging things every 2 minutes, Selaphiel, we might actually finish this today," he said, his tone exasperated, yet carrying the warmth of familiarity. Selaphiel, ever the playful one, hovered nearby, spinning a small orb of light between his hands. His copper-colored wings shimmered as he grinned mischievously. "I'm adding personality, Gabriel. The Creator gave us imagination for a reason. Look, this one twinkles more when the galaxies align." That's artistry. Gabriel sighed, though a small smile tugged at the corners of his mouth. And when your personality throws the whole system into chaos. Selaphiel shrugged, tossing the orb gently into the air. Then we adapt. Chaos has its own kind of beauty. Their banter continued as they worked, the melody of their voices blending with the soft hum of the Sapphire Court. Above them, other angels soared, their laughter and songs interwoven with the faint shimmer of starlight. It was a scene of harmony, two brothers working together, their contrasting personalities shaping the beauty of creation. With a final amused glance at Selaphiel, who was now spinning an entire constellation into playful disarray, Gabriel shook his head, stowed his quill, and decided it was time to check on Raphael's latest creations near the Tree of Life. With the greatest attention to detail, Raphael tended to his garden. The vines climbed gracefully along trellises of light, their leaves glowing faintly in hues of emerald and gold. The flowers were celestial, their petals shifting colors in the breeze. Some blooms released soft melodies when touched by the wind, an innovation Raphael had been perfecting for centuries. As he hummed softly, his hands moved with care, coaxing new harmonies from the plants. The garden was his sanctuary, a space not just for himself but for all who sought peace or counsel. Angels often wandered here to rest, to reflect, or simply to listen to the gentle symphony of the living flowers. A familiar voice broke the stillness. "Still trying to make plants sing, Raphael?" Turning, Raphael saw Gabriel approaching, his golden eyes sparkling with amusement. Raphael smiled warmly. Why not? If the stars can dance, surely flowers can sing. Gabriel chuckled. Fair point. Just don't let Selaphiel get involved, or your garden might start rearranging itself every time someone walks through. As Raphael adjusted the vines of his melodic garden, the faint shimmer of light from an ascending angel caught his eye. Lucifer, heading toward the heights of the Sapphire Court where Cassiel's library of light hovered, no doubt to ensure that the harmony of the celebration was being calculated with its usual perfection. Far above, in a library carved from pure light, Cassiel worked in solitude. Unlike the others, Cassiel bore 6 wings, 2 shielding his face, 2 covering his feet, and 2 extending wide as he hovered near the endless scrolls that lined the library. Each scroll shimmered with infinite knowledge, a record of creation's unfolding story. Cassiel's mind was a fortress of precision and insight, his intellect unmatched among his peers. Today he was calculating the harmonic frequencies for the celebration, the alignment of the stars, the resonance of the music, the interplay of light. It all had to be perfect. Lucifer entered silently, his presence like a ripple in the stillness. Cassiel, he greeted, his voice smooth and steady. Have you finalized the frequencies? Cassiel looked up, his piercing blue eyes meeting Lucifer's golden gaze. Nearly. The Sapphire Court needs slight adjustment, but everything will be ready. Lucifer nodded, a faint smile on his lips. Your precision never fails to impress. And your vision, Cassiel replied with a small smile, never fails to challenge us all. He turned sharply, his wings trailing streams of light as he strode through the courts. Around him, angels moved in perfect harmony, their tasks executed with precision. Lucifer's voice carried over the hum of activity, smooth and commanding, but with an undercurrent of calm assurance. Uriah, he said, stopping beside an angel adjusting banners along the pillars of the Sapphire Court. The colors must reflect the full spectrum of the rainbow, flawlessly. The alignment must be perfect. Uriah bowed slightly, his face bright with admiration. It will be done, Morning Star. Lucifer gave a faint smile. Your diligence does not go unnoticed. Carry on. As Uriah moved away, Lucifer's gaze drifted toward the choir rehearsing nearby. The seraphim's harmonies were already near perfect, but something felt off. A slight imbalance, almost imperceptible, caught his attention. "Gabriel," he called, his tone even but firm. The angel turned, his youthful face lighting up at the sight of Lucifer. "Yes, my prince?" Gabriel asked. Lucifer gestured toward the choir. "Their harmonies are excellent, but the crescendos, they lack depth. Guide them toward something transcendent." Gabriel inclined his head. "Consider it done." Lucifer lingered, his golden eyes narrowing slightly as he watched Gabriel join the choir. The unease that had stirred earlier flickered again, faint but persistent. It was like the ripple of a breeze across still water, almost invisible, yet impossible to ignore. As he stood once more at the edge of the crystal sea, the weight of the Father's words pressed against him. His reflection stared back, perfect as always. And yet, for the first time, something about it felt dim. "Lucifer, is something troubling you?" Selaphiel's voice broke through his thoughts. Lucifer turned, his smile practiced and steady. "Not at all. I was simply reflecting on the grandeur of this day." Selaphiel placed a hand on his shoulder. "You've always been our guiding light. Heaven shines brighter because of you." Lucifer nodded, his smile unwavering. "Thank you, Selaphiel." But as Selaphiel departed, the flicker returned, faint and unshakable. Deep within, a question began to form. A question that would soon shake the very foundations of eternity.